Hi there. Thanks for joining today, Founder Bounty. Today we have Ralph, founder of Terra, a YC company. Thanks a lot for joining us. We know each other. We both worked at a VC previously to this in London. And yeah, feel free to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your company and what you do.
Thanks, Vlad. Very good to be here today. So I'm Ralph. I'm one of the co-founders at Terra. What we built is an API that makes it very easy to access fitness wearables data. Essentially, with a single connection to Terra, you would be able to get data from most of the mainstream wearables like Garmin, Fitbit, Google, Apple, without having to do separate integrations.
Amazing. So what I wanted to do a little bit is really understand and kind of help other founders into, talking about your process and about how you got to YC, about what you think of YC, how the process really kind of helped you, and what you look at kind of going forward. So the point of today's podcast is really to understand a little bit. Maybe you could talk through the synergies with your co-founders, what YC look for, what they don't look for, what they look upon to make you successful founders. Because obviously, it has backed some of the most really really successful companies such as Airbnb and Dropbox. And it would be really good to hear from a first hand from a founder that's been through the process to understand a little bit about how you got in firstly, and also then what they do to help founders.
Yeah, to when you were speaking about the synergies of between founders, I instantly remember that one of the famous says of Steve Jobs is, "It's so tough that any reasonable individual would give up." And launching a company is very difficult, and especially a
Yeah,
tech company where you need to figure out product
yeah,
market fit, where sometimes you're building something that was never built before. So you need to
yeah,
understand the ins and outs from scratch and get to the point where you would need to think about every single detail and
right.
fix it and solve problems on daily basis. So, and trust me, you don't want to do this on your own. And the
Hmm.
importance of having a co-founder is very crucial. And I remember part of the journey of my entrepreneurial journey, I tried to build so many companies before this one, and
Hmm.
there were multiple failures before getting to build Terra, and
Right.
one of the failures was that early on it was that I was trying to do something on my own, and it's so important to have a fantastic team surrounding you to build
Yeah,
something great.
yeah.
You can build something fine doing it on your own, maybe two people, three people. But if you want to build world changing companies and
Hmm.
super
Hmm.
impactful companies, you need to have a great team
Team.
around you.
Right.
And I remember, and I think it's one of the most important things that YC focuses on is who is your co-founder, how did you meet, why are you building this business together, without going into too much details, but they understand the importance of having this psychological support
Yeah,
and having someone who you could work with and build with, and someone that you've known in the past and you have worked in the past on some projects together.
yeah.
And this is why I think one of the first things that we started thinking about when we launched Terra early on was the culture of the team and the principles and the values that we were setting in the company. And the way we think about it is it's in exactly the same way as you would select a co-founder.
Right.
How there are three key points that we always think about. Number one, it's what are the do the people that you are bringing with you align in terms of principles and values. And the reason we think about this is because the toughest decisions you will make in your life, even either professionally or personally, are going to be around your decision making process is always related to your values. So if you put a priest with a thief working together, not having said that, it doesn't mean that a priest cannot be a thief, but if you put them working together, probably if when they have to make a decision, they would be sideways because the way they would think about that decision making process is completely different, and we want to align in that on that. Even if you have different differences in minor uh, questions that you need to answer on a daily basis, that's fine. The most important thing is like the biggest decisions. And then second point is chemistry. Can you work with this person for 10 hours, 12 hours straight without fighting and killing one another? That's an important one, because you want to work with people that you can work with and you enjoy
Yeah.
working with. And the final one is, how good are they technically? Can they get shit done? This is super important. And someone who thinks more than acts is not fit for a startup, because in a startup you need to get shit done every day. You need to launch ship fast every
Yeah.
single day. So these are the three criteria when coming to one for the in terms of selecting a co-founder and in terms of selecting team members joining your team. And that's how we approach it in Terra. When
Yeah.
speaking
Yeah.
about when I remember, just to give you a brief background in terms of how we launched Terra and how we got to where we are now. So I I I was born in Algeria. I lived there for 18 years. And back in the days when I was young, I was a swimmer, and I was very obsessed with performance. How can I reach peak performance during swimming competitions? And there was no easy way to do it. There was no easy way to say, what kind of things can I eat so that I can reach that performance, or how should I exercise, when should I exercise, how should I exercise? And these are the kind of things that you would get with data, but there was no easy access to data. And so it sticked in my mind, especially that I was performing well relatively compared to the people that were performing with me. So I won a gold medal, but it doesn't mean that I was the best. I was just the best between the worst there at that point. The reality is, it sticked in my mind, and when I came to the UK to study engineering, um, and I met my co-founder Kyriakos. We met in Imperial College. He came from a background of special forces where he was obsessed with performance in different ways. So he was going above the limits during his exercises, and
Hmm.
he was planning his nutrition and his fitness levels and activities, and looking at data through polar devices. And we had, it was almost like a click. We spent a very long time talking about these kind of things for hours and hours during the academic year in Imperial. And we almost became we actually became best friends after that. And we wanted to build a business together, but it never came to you don't get born in a situation where I'm gonna build an API when you are like 5 years
Hmm.
old. You
Yeah. Yeah.
set you trace it and you say, this is what I'm going to build. It's an API in the fitness and wellness space, and I'm going to make it
Mm.
$1 billion business. That's not how it works. This is like a dream, but it's not the reality. We didn't know what we wanted to work on, right? And we kept trying different things. I remember I launched a couple of startups before that one. We went to a pre-seed accelerator, which where we met, and we did a presentation there. And it's so the same team, different business idea.
Yeah.
And we went out of the presentation, and I went to one of the partners there, and he told me, you know what, it's unfortunately 7 out of 7 partners don't believe that you can build a company. And this is when I
Gave you more
remember this.
motivation. Gave you more
Exactly.
motivation, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. And I think I'm very grateful for
The experience. Yeah.
experience. Yeah, and I think it's
Mhm.
the, one of the biggest qualities of an entrepreneur, in my opinion. And not to say that I'm a great entrepreneur, but that's what I believe in, is not when getting to a point where it's you should give up. You should
Yeah.
not give up. It's because it's easy to give up on daily
Yeah.
basis.
I agree.
And it's the same thing for you, Vlad. You work on your hustles on daily basis, and it's very easy for you to give up when you wake up in the morning and say, that's not for me.
Yeah. No. Can I just say I absolutely agree with the team point you made. I mean, having gone through a bunch of businesses, team is so essential because it's easy to have a fight or drop out with each other when times are tough, because that's when who's supporting you. A startup is full of the ups and downs. There are times when you're potentially going to run out of money, or there's going to be a serious situation with another co-founder leaving, or something's going to happen. And it's at those times when the team comes into play, and you guys have to stick together and work it out and find a solution. Because in a startup, when you're building a company, every problem has to have a solution. There's always a solution to a problem, right? Whatever it may be, And so I totally agree with you in that, team is paramount to building a company. Knowing that person on a friendly basis, but also on a professional basis. So tell me a little bit about, let's say, the YC process, and like how you went through it, and the type of people you met, and really the culture out there, and what you think about it.
Yeah. So firstly, I will tell you how we got into IC. So the it was a very interesting experience because we when we started with the initial MVP, we had two integrations only. We had Garmin and Fitbit that we built ourselves. Coming from the engineering background was a blessing because we were able to launch an MVP without having to hire someone.
Right.
And myself and Kyriakos were in a position where we got some initial clients, but they were okay. You have two integrations. We need more.
Hmm.
And we went to. So the way it works is that you send an application, and they would call you for a 10 minutes interview.
Hmm.
And I remember we went to that interview, and it was at 1 o'clock in the morning, UK time. And there were three people. One of them was Jeff Ralston, who is the current president of YC. And the questions were straight to the point, so sharp, very fast. You have no
Hmm.
time to think. Straight away, it's either
Hmm.
you know or you don't know. Very fast questions.
Right. Right.
And it's almost we performed really badly in that interview. But I think that what saved us there is at the end we got to him and we told him, look, Jeff, this is we built it just in 1 week. These are how many clients are interested to use it. These are
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
integrations
Right.
we
Right.
built,
Right.
and this is 1 week. Consider it that this is not a year that we have been working on it, and we are going very fast. We are building, we're doing this, we're doing this. And he said, okay. And then we finished the call and we received an email saying that we decided to take you to send you to another interview.
Right.
And the second interview was with Jared. So Jared is the CTO of YC, and Jared was super technical. So he we discussed the product with him. We did a demo. He looked at it and he said, "I don't really understand." And then we finished the call, and then they send us another email, and they say, "Okay, guys, can you come back for another call?" That was 4 a.m.,
Okay.
4 o'clock in the morning. And we came to the call and they started bombarding us with questions. I remember there were Tim Brately from the founder of Yahoo, and it was Jared Friedman, founder of Script, CTO of YC, and they were bombarding us with questions there. And then at the end, Jared looked at us and he said, "Look, I really like you guys. Okay, that looks good. That's not bad." And then we finished the call, and he sends us an email and he says, "Okay, what are you doing here, here, here?" A few questions, and then we answered, and he was, "Congratulations, welcome to YC." And
Amazing.
this was a
Yeah.
life turning moment because before YC, I remember we were we pitched every single European VC, and we pitched some. I remember a Greek VC. He got exactly the same pitch as we pitched to General Catalyst, who was one of our investors, and they're very famous in San Francisco for investing in some world changing companies like Snapchat or Airbnb. And that VC, so we needed money so badly because we were trying to survive. We did not really have like a huge amount of money in the bank account to survive on daily basis. And we were simply looking for like 100K for $1 million valuation. And we got a reply that you guys are not ready. We don't think you can do it. So we are going to pass on this. And then the exact same pitch deck, and we go to General Catalyst, and we get straight away, we get an investment in 24 hours. This is where you see like there is a huge difference between San Francisco based investors and European investors in
Of
general.
course. Yeah,
And I,
absolutely.
I think this is the main reason why Europeans are lagging behind, because
Hmm.
universities are fantastic in Europe. If you see Imperial College, Cambridge, Oxford, all the universities in Switzerland and France
Hmm.
and Germany. So you have talent there, and talent comes from universities. It's mainly engineers building these kind of businesses. That's what YC invests in. But the reality is accessibility to the capital, the talent, in terms of people who built businesses in the past is not as easy as in San Francisco. And when we got, I remember when we got to YC, it's we had. So I think what's very important to note is that I remember like one the way I would describe YC is that you would have advisors who did it in the past and who know how to build $1 billion
Yeah,
business. So
agreed.
they're
Yeah.
not bullshitting you. They're not telling you you need to do X and they don't know if X works.
Right.
Having said that, they don't tell you how to build your business. They show you the how
Right.
to do it, what kind of things you need to do. And that's number one. Number two, I think the pool of talent and people building great things at the same time and super hungry, super motivated, doing YC at the same time has a huge benefit because they are teaching one another and helping one another continuously. They are sharing ideas. They are continuously at the same time building something. So, and they are similar stages approximately. So this helps you stay very inspired and motivated to achieve more and do more. And the whole point of doing YC is in 4 weeks or in 8 weeks, how fast can you go? How many
Right.
clients can you get? So the focus is
Absolutely.
on growth.
It's also the support that they give you in the community. I think building a company, and especially at an early stage, is really about, not only the team, but having that community around you that YC have built over the years with people that are experienced in different fields. So, for example, if you have someone, that you would need help on the technical side, they would link you to a technical person. Someone on the marketing side, they would link you to a marketing person. So that community that they've built over the years is probably really, really, and it is key to getting those growth rates that you really want at an early stage company. So I
Exactly,
think
exactly.
that's
And the resources are
yeah,
incredible. So accessibility, access to a huge database of failures
yeah,
and successes, and you can see it live on the YC forum or access advisors. You can literally book a call for tomorrow to speak to one of the guys who built $1 billion business. So this accessibility is unparalleled, I think, in the entrepreneurial world, tech
right,
entrepreneurial world.
yeah. No, definitely, definitely very interesting advice. In terms of, let's say, actually um, growing once you're in YC and focusing on that side of things. Okay, we talked a little bit about being able to have advisors. Do you think that let's say investors? I mean, YC is really validation, right? Because of the amount of high quality companies that have come through that particular VC. Kind of, what is the next stage? To really get the growth that you want to have and to get the investors. Was there any particular advice that YC would give, kind of getting to that next stage of growth, moving forward?
Yeah. So something that is super important to focus on is don't spend your time schnoozing with people. Focus
Hmm.
on your customers, on your
Right.
product,
Focus on your customers. Yeah, there you go.
and build something that people want. That's it. There
Yeah,
is there is no secret sauce. There is no actual something that you don't know. It's very simple. If you get
yeah,
traction, that's what you should focus on. You should
yeah.
focus on that traction. If you don't get traction, you need to find traction. And the only way to find it is that you need to solve a problem that people care about and they
Right.
want it. So that's the whole YC advice is around this. There is no trick.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Focus on the customers. That's also what Jeff Bezos talks about a lot of the time. Their customer journey and making sure they're happy. I'm glad to have heard it from you and obviously from YC that have kind of validated and proved that this is a working methodology. Is there anything else you'd recommend, let's say, to early stage founders that you think are the most key points that people could learn from to really get that startup off the ground? I mean, obviously, founders have to deal with a lot of stuff, from funding to getting the startup to the product to the tech. Making sure the tech is also up to scratch, and when you're trying to scale the product as well. But is there any particular? Do you do that all at once? Do you focus on the product? Do you focus on the customer, like, or the investors? What's the first thing you'd focus on?
I think when I remember my failures, I would I would actually focus on 7 points. So let me just switch on the light.
No problem.
So I would focus on 7 points. So number one is the biggest advice that I would give to founders that are just starting is don't think you can make it because you're smart. The
Right.
best
Right.
founders are not the smartest people in the world.
Right.
They
Right.
have they have criterias or they have
Hmm.
characteristics that are different than being smart. They are relentlessly resourceful, they are super driven, and they never give up. And you would not build a big company simply because you're smart. You would build a
Hmm.
big company if you have the stamina to go through the challenges. The second point is don't do it on your own.
Hmm.
So the journey is very long and it's very hard to get to the finish line. And as I mentioned earlier, it's the three key points: is principles and values, chemistry, and complementarity of skills. And that's what you should look for in people that they will be working with you. Then third point is don't wait. So the more you wait, the less you will do. You need to launch fast. Launch the least worst product to the market that someone would pay you for, and get people to pay you for your product. Don't
So
give
kind
it
of
for
an
free.
MVP skeleton based, just showing that there's validating that there's a market,
Yes,
right? Okay.
exactly. And then remember something very important: ideas are worthless without execution. It's
Yep.
great to say, oh, I have this idea and someone took it from me. No
Hmm.
one took the idea from you because that
Hmm.
idea is worthless. No one is going to pay you for that idea. It's not
Yeah.
executed.
Agree. Yep.
The fourth point is do things that don't scale. When we go to university, when we go to schools, they teach us on how to automate, how to do things that essentially you are bigger than speaking to your customer. If you are an Uber driver and going with an Uber, and or for example you're in a restaurant, you're bigger than doing being a waiter or something like this. You actually need to do things that don't scale. So if you are working in the hospitality industry, you need to go to the that specific hotel, walk in, speaking to people in there, figuring out what's going on, and then building for them. You cannot build it from your room without speaking to your customers. You need to find a
Right.
way to get to them.
Okay.
Next
Okay.
one is don't be afraid to dream big. You would be surprised how many it's much easier to raise when you're looking for 10 million than to raise when you're looking for 100K, because the way VCs operate, they are looking for exponential returns. And if your idea can just get to $100 million, it's not worth it for them. If it's not at least $1 billion market, it's not worth it for them. So they would rather give money to someone who gives a very stupid dream to someone who is looking for to achieve a realistic goal. And then the final 2 points before the final one. So the first point is don't hire people just because you raised a little bit of money. You
Right.
need to hire people when you need it. When you have too much work to the point where that's it, I cannot do it anymore. I need someone to do this and this and this. So that's when you hire. You don't hire because it's a nice to have, or because, oh,
Right.
he has like 200 people or 300 people. You might
Hmm.
have a 10 people company and you sell for a $3 billion. And Instagram showed this. They had 12 people and they sold. And the final point is, don't try to reinvent the wheel. So don't go and try to recreate, let's say, MailChimp, and you're not building MailChimp, or recreate, let's say, AWS and build servers, and it takes you 1 year to do it so that you can build an API. If you have a pre existing solution, find a way on how to use it and just go fast and focus on your core product. You
Right.
have
Right.
so many supports that you can get from the internet and from other companies that you actually don't need to build most of the things. You just need to focus on what's important for you. When you think about Terra, for example, we for the infrastructure we use AWS. We have the we have all the functionalities that we need to open our API and to get the data, to cache the data, to be serverless, to grow fast. So everything is could be done through that, so that we don't need to build it from scratch. And
Right. Right.
so there are the
So use pre-existing solutions is definitely a piece of advice.
yeah.
You know, create that MVP, the skeleton MVP. Um, Show that people are willing to pay for that MVP. And then what would you say is the kind of next phase? Okay, you've created the skeleton MVP. You've got people to pay for that. What is next? What about scaling?
Yes.
What would you
So
say?
next phase, when you go to the next phase, you would start coming. You would start going into some sort of problem. So let's say you raised a bit of money. You have 2 million in the bank. You have clients. You are growing. Everything's going well. So you start going into other problems that you need to solve. Examples are, how do you hire the best people in your team? You need the best people to deliver for that specific product, and it's not easy to do this. Next, another point could be, how do you how do you onboard bigger clients? So bigger clients who come with more constraints. What are your SLAs? What's your security? What's this how do you what's your disaster recovery mechanism? So you would start thinking about other things which are not you would not encounter when you are too small. Um, Another challenge could be,
So there are another set of issues for that scale phase as well that you have to deal with, right?
exactly, and you start like building block by block. So you build it, and then you hire people. They help you with it. You build the next block. You hire people. They help you with it, and then you go phase by phase until you grow the company.
Understand. No, all very interesting. I think we've gone to that kind of scale phase now. Having been a startup founder myself, and had investors, what's the kind of long game here? Do investors try to impact on where your company is going, or do they allow you to solely decide? This is after, I guess, there's three phases: early stage, and then middle stage on the scaling. But then on the last stage, if do they, let's say, looking for an exit, or what would you say? How do you deal with that, and what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So something that I learned when I went to IC is that the best investors don't get involved. They help you when you need it, when you go
Understood.
to them, but they
There you
don't
go.
come
Yeah.
to you if you don't need them. So um, usually, if an investor gets involved in what kind of decisions you need to make and which kind of people you need to hire and all these kind of things, from my perspective, they are a bad investor. They never built a company in the past. That's in my opinion. I could be wrong in my analysis, but I think what you need to focus on is, how can you get investors that will not tell you what to do?
Of
Because
course. Yeah.
if they come and tell you what to do, they should build this company themselves. And building a company that impacts millions of people is not something that is on that you would read about in a book step by step on how to do it. um, and you need to be in a position to know who you want in this journey.
Of course.
Of course, capital is not widely available for any startup. I understand it, but if you have the choice, pick your investors. And we were fortunate enough to have some fantastic investors like General Catalyst and Y Combinator and Samsung Next and Pioneer Fund and Lance Armstrong and some angel investors like the founder of Monzo. And so that was we were fortunate to be in this position, to be honest.
Hmm. Well, that's yeah, no, that's obviously amazing. Any kind of, I guess, early stage founder's dream is to be able to really have the choice to pick their investors, and your piece of advice I think is very very good. Is really pick them wisely. You'll be together with them for a long time. And as you mentioned as well, the best ones know that it's really up to the founder to do as he wants with the company and to move it in whatever direction he wants. No, amazing. Is there any, I guess, last pieces of advice or essential things, from your experience with building Terra, that you would say or that you'd like to say to founders out there that are looking to start or have already started and do have a little bit of traction about a core element in building a company? What you know in terms of advice?
Yeah, so the advice is the same. Focus on your clients, build something that people want, be find people who align with your values and principles to build a culture that excels in the
Hmm.
industry
Hmm.
that you operate in. um, I think these are the most critical points that you should
Okay.
focus on.
Okay, cool. All right, well, thank you very much for your time today. I would love to have you on again.
Thanks,
And
Brett.
yeah, speak soon. Thanks. Bye
Great,
bye.
thank you.